What's up, guys? Back with another episode of the Dave Gold Evolve podcast. And today we've got Joseph Ghaleeb. Am I saying that right?
Ghaleeb.
Joseph Ghaleeb, who is from Montreal, but is currently in Armenia. He is an amazing guy to have on the podcast, who is doing amazing work with men and helping them to find their masculinity and to work on the internal side as well, work on the shadow. So thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
My pleasure, man. I'm really happy to be here.
What's going on for you right now in your life? You said that you just arrived to Armenia. How's that?
I've been in Armenia for, I think since April 4th or 5th. And it's been really great so far. It's a complete unknown path right now. It's here for essentially getting a second citizenship by ancestry. But you know how it is. You do something for maybe one reason, but it opens up a whole gate. So I'm really excited for what's coming up, being out on the road and in a completely foreign country and seeing what happens.
Nice. I think I'm not too far from you. I'm in Serbia right now and just enjoying the life here. Things are starting to come back to life. It feels like the weather, the vaccines, the summer approaching us. And overall, could be a good year still. We could turn things around.
That's right.
What is it exactly that you do? I know you run a group yourself. How about you tell the guys in here who don't know you personally what it is exactly that you do?
Essentially, what I've been working on for, you can say the last 6-7 years is really deep personal and interpersonal transformative work. So all in terms of how specifically men can feel more at ease and open and can relate with women and the world without feeling stuck, without feeling a sense of separateness, without feeling frozen in fear, right? When they want to connect, when they want to build relationships, So helping guys really grow up masterfully, clean up the baggage, the wounds, all those suppressed emotions, all those things that sneak up on us when we try to relate with others, specifically women. So I've been working with men in the dating and relationship field, but from really a deep place of healing and transformation.
Did you go through your own struggles with overcoming fear or scarcity on this road to helping men find alignment?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, right? And I still am. I still have stuff to clean up. I've cleaned up a lot, but I still have, unknowingly more ways to refine my sense of security in my own self. But I'm on top of my shadows. I'm on top of my little dark corners. I'm aware of them. I've identified them. So I just happen to be really passionate and skilled at articulating the stuff that I've experienced and transcended and included and worked through, and to really offer a view, a perspective that is at least more healthy and also more integral, more inclusive, holistic, in other words, for guys who really need that, who want to go further and deeper in their path to becoming, more social, more comfortable, more confident, more secure in themselves. Fundamentally, that's what it's about. Developing a secure sense of self in relation to others, in relation to women, in relation to the environment, in relation to the fucking dog, whatever it is.
You do a lot of shadow work with guys. So what do you think is something that comes up often for men when they go into this work and try to find themselves?
That's a really great question, man. Trying to see at what stage I can answer it, because you can say what comes up for men when they try to deal with this work or do the shadow work is it's pre-meeting the facilitator or pre-meeting me.
Well, what is shadow work, first of all, in your definition?
That's an even better question. Someone once defined a shadow, and he was a student on one of them on a retreat I've been on, and he defined it really simply, which made sense to a lot of people, including myself. You can define a shadow or shadows in some real advanced, articulate, complex way, and you can search it online. You can research Jungian shadows and you can find out all kinds of explanations. But that student said, oh, wait a minute. So a shadow is a part of me that I can't see. So whenever we're in conflict, whenever something is off within us, whenever we don't feel aligned or in integrity or clear, whatever you want to call it, we're stumbling over a part of ourselves that we can't see. And usually it's either a disowned part of our personality or a suppressed emotion. And it's unconscious. It's a part of our unconscious.
There is this fear of diving into shadow work for a lot of guys, because I think that they know that they would see something that's unpleasant about themselves that they would have to overcome. And I almost feel like as coaches, we subconsciously do this shadow work with students sometimes, even when we don't realize it. But how exactly do you facilitate this shadow work with the guys that you work with?
There's a lot of ways in to do the kind of work. There's a lot of technologies. There's a lot of processes to engage in. Essentially, a lot of it is about inquiring deeper than the surface. So let's say somebody, has trouble with expressing themselves vocally, has trouble standing by their truth and expressing the truth using their voice. Let's say they have a block somewhere there. One way we can inquire about that shadow that's related to their truth being expressed is by just starting with simple questions. Simple questions that are based on the conflict, right? So maybe the conflict is, I have a hard time speaking my truth to her. whatever it is I want to say. And so that's the conflict. Like, I want this thing, but somehow this gets in the way, right? It's conflict. So how we go about working with the shadow that's there, that's unconscious, that's holding us back, we can inquire by asking questions like, what's so bad about doing that? What would be the worst thing that could happen? And we kind of dig in slowly and we look underneath the carpet, and then we go deeper in the basement, and we go to the core thing that is driving that that conflict.
I definitely think that this inner game, this self-reflection, is something dearly needed in the men's societies and communities of the common day. Because there's a lot of facade going on where people are pretending to play a role that suits them, but inside something's not right. Something hurts. You're not whole. You're not feeling at peace. And I would reckon to guess that by working on your shadow, you're also going to be able to push away any kind of low vibration that you're clinging onto and move more into a state of being and alignment with your purpose and with your ultimate vision of where you want to go. So, how do you think that men should go about working on their shadow and also overcoming their fear of approaching a woman or starting a business or doing something that's uncomfortable? How does it go together? How does it collide? The inner game and the outer game of, working on yourself and also taking action.
Yeah, that's a good question, and very important to interconnect those things, because so again, what's important is we have to grow up. We have to grow out of adolescence, because a lot of our shadows, first of all, those parts of us that are unconscious, are actually driven by trauma. Pre-verbal trauma, childhood wounds, and attachment issues with our parents. It shapes and fuels the shadows, those unconscious behaviors. So we have to grow up. We have to actually make a decision to grow out of adolescence. So that means to develop a healthy character, a mature character. And that requires us to clean up all those suppressed, forgotten parts of ourselves that we weren't maybe encouraged to feel, to acknowledge, because we were so young, we were helpless. We just needed help from our caretakers. We didn't have the adult consciousness to be like, no, well, if you tell me that I'm a bad person or I'm a bad kid, I'm not a bad kid. I'm great. I mean, as a child, you're just going to take on the message of your caregivers, those who you love so much. You actually believe what they say sometimes about you or what they make you feel. And it's not that they do it on purpose. It's just, their own conditioning is dumped onto you, and they do the best they can as parents. So we got to grow up. We got to clean up. We got to clean up all the wounds, the baggage. the emotions. We got to learn to feel our emotions and understand our emotions deeply, not the way society conditions us to react to our emotions, like react to fear, it's a bad thing, or react to shame, it's a bad thing to feel shame. We got to really change our perspective on the way that we understand the nature and purpose of our emotions. They have a message for us. They lead us into a place of integrity. But we have to learn how to change our relationship to our emotions. So that's the cleaning up part. This leads us to then be able to show up. You know, that's the outer, you can call it outer game. I don't like to use game anymore. I'm all about the gamelessness. You know, how do we stop playing games, unnecessary games, right? And it's unnecessary games with ourselves, unnecessary games with others, women. So how do we then show up after we do that growing up work and that cleaning up work? How do we show up as a mature, whole, healed, compassionate, social being?
Yeah.
Without the pollution of all the shit that we've accumulated. It's work. It's a lot of work, but it's totally interconnected that way. You know, the thing is, when we clean up, we're actually showing up. You know, it's kind of, it happens real quick, and we learn ways to showing up. You know, we learn ways to becoming more skilled at being social and charming, or a better lover, a better communicator. We can learn all these tweaks and refinements. That's cool. But it ends up being faster and more efficient if we do the cleaning up, the emotional work, the wound work, the development work.
I love it. Clean up and then show up. And for a lot of guys, neglecting the cleanup part is just so easy. But if you want to show up truly authentic and vulnerable and as your true self, then you're going to have to clean up. You're going to have to start to surrender to life, to accept what you've been through, to raise your awareness and your vibration, and understand the why. Understand where you came from. What is your origin story? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you going with your life? It was really interesting that you're talking about this. I was on this mastermind last night, and to close it out, this guy did a meditation where we went back when we were 5 and met our 5-year-old self. And then we went 20 years into the future and met our future self. And both times there was like an embrace that occurred and words that were passed. And it was very powerful. I saw some people, shedding some tears when we went back to the Zoom after. I think our relationship with our present, future, and past selves can be very distorted or diluted at times, and we don't know how to connect with different versions of ourselves. Don't even want to ask, who am I? We don't even want to ask, what does that mean? Like, who am I? And maybe it could lead us into a conversation that got going a few days ago on non-duality. So I was doing some research and, I was trying to figure out what it meant to me. And a lot of people responded. It got a lot of traction in the group. And I know you've talked about experiencing like non-separateness. Okay. And I'm not sure if you think that non-duality is the same, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on non-duality.
So give me Help me
that
with
journey as a
an
man.
even more specific question,
Uh-oh.
maybe that's very personal to you
Thoughts
with
on
regards to
non-duality. Sounds
non-duality.
dualistic.
That could be, I think, more helpful. Let's really zone in. But see, when we experience that shame coming up or that frustration coming up, and we get caught in pondering endlessly, and we contract, I'm like, oh, pondering, and we lose this openness, this clarity. We want to get the message and the emotions. We want to understand what the frustration is actually trying to tell us. We don't want to bypass anything. We don't want to just not want to feel frustration or not want to feel the shame and get into this state of bliss, because we never actually process the emotion, which is important to do. That's the cleaning up work. But we do it from this realization of, well, it's just energy, just coming and going. It has no reality in and of itself. This shame story, it's just made up. You know? So learning a better story around shame, a better story around frustration, that's where we clean up our emotions and appreciate a way more empowering and helpful understanding around our emotions, so we can shift the story, shift our relationship, and just let it go. Let go of the emotion, not hold on to it. No picking and choosing. Picking and choosing is dualistic.
Well, when you walk down the street, for example, and you see a girl that's walking your way, okay, what goes through your mind then as to whether you are going to pick or choose to approach her or not to approach her? What's the relationship there? What's going on in a guy's mind, and how does that um, how does that choice become easier, per se?
So are you asking me what's going on in a guy's mind that I can pick of my choosing as a template kind of guy? Or are you asking me what goes through my mind?
I mean, we could go either way, but let's start with you. So you're walking down the street and you see a beautiful girl coming your way. Okay. What do you think is a healthy way of dealing with those thoughts as they arise, as to determine whether or not you want to actually do something about it and
Right.
take action and meet her?
Right. So I'll answer your question in multiple ways so that I cover all the bases, because it's not going to be one answer, right? If I feel anxious in that moment, because I'm human and I might feel anxious in that
Definitely.
moment, right?
Probably will feel a little bit of anxiety.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, that's, again, the anxiety is so beautiful. It gives you a message. You know, the message is actually, in anxiety, the message actually, which most people don't realize, it's unfocused fear. Unfocused fear. So go straight down now, go to
What is
deeper
fear?
emotions.
And
That's
what is
right.
fear?
That's right. Go deeper than the unfocused fear. Okay, so it's fear. So let's go into the fear. What is the fear? You know, fear, the way I've been learning it is, there's a message in fear. What's the message? So what do you think is the
That
message
little
in
child
fear?
was hurt.
That's absolutely not wrong. Not wrong at all. It's related to some hurt. Absolutely. Yeah. But can you go deeper maybe in what you think fear is trying to tell you, if it's actually trying to tell you something that is in your benefit? What do you think that would be? Instead of the negative story, like the child was hurt, which is not untrue. Yeah. What is a deeper message that is in service to your growth, to taking action from clarity?
Yeah, maybe what you're saying is that anxiety is rising. It's telling you, look, there's an opportunity to overcome.
That's right. That's exactly right. An opportunity is available. That's exactly right. That's super intuitive of you. The fear is actually, here is something, and usually fear is about the future, not about the past, really. But it's actually about the future. It can be about the past. You can interconnect it that way. But it's usually about the future. Like, there's something I fear here that I might lose.
Yeah.
I might lose something. So that's essentially something. So again, you're asking me what happens. I see a really beautiful girl and I get that fear or that anxiety. Well, there might be something that I lose here if I go talk to her. What would I lose? Right? I might lose my self-image, or I might lose
your dignity,
or whatever comfort I have walking in the street on my own without having to deal with attractive, intimidating women. That's right. So let's shift it into something more related to opportunity. So the common way of seeing fear, societally speaking, is I might lose something here. Everything's about scarcity. I might lose something.
As if you already have something.
Well, that's interesting. I might lose something that I have that I cherish deeply.
And what are you holding on to?
What are you holding on to? That's right. So the shift then that we can add is I might get something that I don't have.
This is it's really, I think, helpful for the guys to understand why surrender is such a powerful topic talked about in the world of spirituality. Because a lot of the time, when you do surrender and let go, you realize that this whole fear was an illusion and that you made it up in your mind and you were attached to something that wasn't real and that no one was really judging you and that actually the girl wanted to talk to you and actually the business was going to work out and actually people wanted to pay you. All these things start coming up for you. It's like, remove the blocks and then you can just start to run.
That's right. Clearly, being able to take action clearly with integrity, with pure discernment, without the pollution of dualistic conflicts in the mind. Oh, but no, this will happen, but I want that, but no, all these moral dilemmas, which are made up, as you said, it's just made up stories.
You know, I was listening to, I think it was John Maxwell the other day, and he said, experience is not the greatest teacher of all time. It's the lessons that you learn from the experience. And I think that too often we go about life without actually reflecting on our experiences to put the pieces of the puzzle together and become more whole. And that's, I think, a big portion of, the benefit of having a coach to see what you are neglecting, which areas of yourself. And just that anxiety as it's coming up, I see with certain guys, whether it's going to do a live video or make a post or take a picture, or even just the way in which they break out of a comfort zone, whether it's just doing voice calls or just doing video calls or talking to different caliber people. It's like all of that fear and anxiety and frustration around leaving your comfort zone is an illusion. And when you break through to the other side, you see that life is actually trying to help you. It actually wants you to succeed, but not in a objective kind of way, just in an equanimous way. It wants you to find balance. When you're high, it wants to bring you down. When you're low, it wants you to lift yourself up.
Yeah. What a mystery. And it's a lot of work, to refine that, to stabilize that clarity, to learn to deal with our emotions, over and over again, because it keeps happening again and again. Like, one day I think I fixed one of my shadows, or I integrated one of my shadows, and here it is again, sneaks up on me like just a few days ago. And just like, there you are again. I thought I fucking squashed you. No, here it is. And then you're familiar with it, and it's less antagonistic, and you can relate with it better, and you can just polish that, that rough edge and integrate even more.
Yeah, I think just a great awareness first step is understanding, what we talked about today. What is the shadow, that it's present, and that if you want to understand it, that it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you have men do shadow work with women? I know that you do some pairing, right, in your coaching. So what exactly do men work on with women when they get paired in your program, and are there some tantra aspects to that as well?
Yeah, great question. Let's say like in my 12-week program, or a 2-week live workshop, the pair work stuff comes towards the end. I don't do that in the beginning. We want to, again, start with the personal growing up work and the personal cleaning up work, get really acquainted with what's going on internally. A lot of radically powerful embodiment training, learning how to inhabit the body, really learning how to feel into the body and reclaim emotions and sensations that were blocked or numb or pushed away. So feeling safe in our skin, that's the first part, whether it's an online coaching program or live workshop. It's always the same really important work, that main pillar, embodiment. Then really understanding emotions cognitively, at least, and getting a visceral sense of letting those emotions go and understanding their meaning, purpose, and direction, where they want to take you, opportunity, as you said. Then I bring in facilitators, and we do relational work from this embodiment training. So learn to speak to her from your heart, learn to speak to her from your power, learn to speak to her from your sexuality. Now learn to speak to her from all three combined, interconnected, indistinguishable from one another.
Let's break them down real quick. So speaking to a woman from your heart, what does that feel like?
You're really beautiful. So I'm speaking from an open heart. You're wonderful. I'm actually with you right now. I'm attuning to this area of my body as I speak to you. And if you feel that right now, as we're doing this podcast, it's because you're attuning to that part of you. That's called relational attunement. It's the same thing for both of us. We have the same heart. I mean, maybe not the same organ, but it's the same tone, the same quality of love or emotion. And everybody knows this is what compassion and empathy is all about. So when I speak to a woman, or we train a guy to like really drop into his chest, we get him to feel like he can inhabit his chest. Obviously, most of the time that's going to be really hard because there's a lot of grief there, a lot of tightness. a lot of lack of safety to feel exposed and vulnerable that way. So we work on releasing tension there and just dropping into it, getting a taste of it, you know?
And what about speaking from power?
Then power, we drop into the midsection, you know, the solar plexus area underneath the ribs, and just learning how to inhabit your actual anger, but not expressed in a violent way, or not introjected, how we usually do it when we can't express it. We're violent against ourselves, self-loathing, toxic shame. So we drop into our power. We learn to reclaim anger, which has ferocious clarity and energy to be used in a non-harmful way. And that's when you can speak with power. I want to take you out on a date.
Yeah.
So that's just power. I'm gonna take you home. Obviously, if you speak just with power, you get into that's a little intense. So that's why we want to combine.
Dominance without empathy
that's right.
Is going to be domineering, and women are not going to like that.
They don't want that. They want a man who can be a man, but who's integrated. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, not every woman wants that because she's attracted to where she's at. And, there are bonding patterns. And, if a guy is super domineering and that's what she's attracted to, well, she's attracted to that kind of wounded relationship of her being somehow at the mercy of domineeringness without having her power. We can discuss all those tangents, but from a perspective of security and having a healthy relationship between two people, as far as you're concerned first, you want to be just integrated. You want to be whole. You want to be connected to your heart, your power, and your sexuality, and your intelligence and your awareness. All of it, this is the chakras. That's kind of what it's about.
So we've got speak from the heart, speak from the power, and what's our final one?
Desire, sexuality.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
That's one that guys have, I think also a hard time doing, because if they're missing the other two, or the other two are imbalanced, then the sexual voice comes off really uncalibrated.
That's right. And I would say that actually working on the foundational centers are important, root and sacral, like root groundedness. So that's why we really encourage meditative practice to just really learn to ground and be here in this body and just hold the attention right here. So learning to inhabit, the pelvis, pelvic floor, the whole bottom of your body first, and really learning to breathe from, 2-3 inches below the navel, learning to inhabit that area. It's so numb, it's so disowned, it's so tense. We clench our asses, man, all the time. We're anal, and we have short orgasms, or we prematurely ejaculate. We have so much tension down there. We want to relax that so that we can be yeah, you're sexy. Speaking from desire, So helping guys attune to their sexuality and speak to her from his sexuality. She can feel it in her sexuality. There's that attunement. There's that relational connection. It's a bridge. And then getting them to practice experiencing all three, getting a sense of that range on an embodied level, that they're able to actually access more of themselves and play as they see fit to the situation.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, I know you're not going to like this question, but is there a amount of time that you encourage the men to meditate in your program, or how exactly does one form their own meditation practice?
Yeah, that's a big one, I ideally prefer working with guys who have their meditation practice already. It makes it way easier and more efficient, the work. makes it way more efficient. But I encourage at least sitting 3 times a week, minimum 30 minutes. And basic stuff, following the breath, developing a concentration practice. Just be with the breath. Just be with the breath. And when you disconnect and you disassociate and you go in la la land and you think about your taxes and what you're going to have for dinner, just come back to the breath gently. Hold your attention there.
You know, sometimes people will say, oh, you're spiritual. That means you meditate. And I'm kind of not feeling connected to that. Like, I'm seeing meditation as a tool, as a practice, as an exercise, as a way of being, a lifestyle. But maybe you think differently. Do you think that meditation is interconnected with spirituality?
What do you mean by spirituality?
That's a great question.
This is the issue with language.
That's the next one that I ask in the group that gets like 100 comments. What is spirituality in a man's world?
Yeah, you're going to ask that on the Facebook group and you'll get tons of opinions.
Exactly.
It's very important to have the common semiotics, the same. We're speaking the same thing. We want to be referring to the same meaning, and we want to be understanding each other by understanding what we mean, or else we can get caught and just, we can constantly be trying to say, I'm right, you're wrong, or like, I don't really understand what you mean, because I see it that way. But we have to have a clear understanding. Like, so the first thing is, what do you mean by spirituality?
There's a lot of infighting as well in like spiritual communities.
Did you say a lot of what?
Infighting.
Yeah, of course.
Like, no, it's better this way. No, it's better this way,
Yeah, it's so funny to see, because once you realize from an integrally informed perspective, like say taking on one of the most, in my view, important philosophers of our day, of our days, which probably he won't be recognized for another 100 years from now in a mass way, Ken Wilber, integral theory.
Yeah.
Everyone's right. Everyone's right. The issue is what people leave out.
Wow.
It's about it. Everyone's right. When someone says, no, you got to be rational. And the other says, no, you got to follow your feelings. They're both right. They're both aspects of human experience. To push one thing away in favor of another is just an ego project of saying, like, I'm right about this and you're wrong about that.
And let's say, for lack of devil's advocate, someone says that terrorism is a good thing. How can that be right? How can that be okay?
Good question.
And I've heard this argument, and it confuses me a bit, when we throw around words like everything is love, everything is God. It's all love, baby. All God. Okay. And I see it, in others, the frustration to want to accept.
Yeah, it's very hard, man. On one hand, you have someone saying everything is interconnected, everything is God, everything is love, everything is unity, everything is empty, vast sameness. Whatever the words you want to use, when you have a realization into the nature of reality, like there's no real meaning. Everything just is the way it is. You're not in control of anything. The universe has been here forever and is going to be here forever. And then at the same time, your question about terrorism, this is where it's important to just really understand where people are coming from without the labeling of right or wrong. This is the suffering. Suffering comes from I'm right, you're wrong. I'm here, you're there. I'm better, you're worse. Duality. This is the ego suffering. It's completely unnecessary suffering. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean we're pro terrorism or pro violence. It just, from the perspective of deeply understanding others, is very valuable to just, okay, what are they after here? What are they rooting? What are they going for here in this terrorism stuff? Understanding where they're coming from doesn't mean that it's fucking right in the sense of I don't want to harm human beings. It's unnecessary harm. But your question, when you ask it, is just a matter of understanding, like what's driving them. So and that's very fucking hard, having compassion for the ones who murder,
steal, like let's just say even just any kind of committing a crime that was egregious.
That's right. Yeah. Very complicated to deal with, for sure. From the perspective of compassion and understanding, well, that's a big one. Having real compassion for the suffering of others, no matter what. Doesn't mean that you agree with them that you're going to do it. You're just leaving yourself out of taking a position. You see the suffering in the murderer. You see the suffering in the thief.
Yeah.
You see the suffering in the desperate, the desperate humanity, or the one who kills for his beliefs. It's like, wow. He believes in his ideology so much, that human addiction to the ideology, that he'll kill for it. It's like just that deep understanding. From that deep understanding and clarity and compassion, we're, in my view, more likely to respond to situations in a better way, without causing more unnecessary harm.
Mm-hmm. Which is what we do a lot of the time. We take something that we don't like and turn it into just destruction, devastation, pure suffering. Everyone suffers.
Yeah. Unnecessarily.
We actually had a question for you during the live stream. So Marcus, who's been with us, he wanted to know if after doing shadow work, did you ever come to a halt in your shadow work healing and evolution? He said, I feel like the method I personally discovered and found is no longer as effective as it once was. What I found in earlier stages is I exaggerated my healing because it felt so powerfully miraculous. Would you recommend, what would you recommend is the most effective shadow work meditations and methodologies?
What's effective will be effective for one person and useless for another. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to, at the same time, trust a facilitator, a teacher, someone who has experience, to kind of see where you're at and maybe point the way in a particular direction and propose certain tools and technologies, because there are many shadow work technologies. But at the same time, trusting your own gut, your own intuition, your own teacher, your own inner teacher, and say like, yeah, this resonates with me. This works. I trust myself in that way. And throwing away what doesn't work, throw it in the garbage and just go find something else that works. So it's a process, what works at some point, you've maybe exhausted at another point. And so inquire about new ways, check in, ask questions. So he's asking what can be more effective. I'd have to talk to him. It depends. Everyone learns differently. No, just to give a little bit more for Marcus, like you can work on shadows intellectually with the mind. You can ask questions, like what's the problem? I don't want to do the dishes. Okay, what's so bad about doing the dishes? Oh, well, it's there's that. Okay, so what's so bad about that? Oh, and then he digs and we alternate questions this way. So that's a questioning process. Then there's other kinds of shadow work where you just go through the body, just directly in the body. Where's the tension in your body? It's in my lower back. Okay, feel into the tension. What's the emotion there? Oh, it's grief. Oh, great. Okay, feel into the grief. Any memory come up? Maybe a 3-year-old memory of you comes up. So that's another form of shadow work. But it's done in a different way. And it depends on the ability of the facilitator to notice where the other person's at and where he might be able to gain clarity and insight. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The extent at which the facilitator can notice what's best for the other is the extent at which the facilitator is able to see where the person is ready to receive. Is the person able to get into their body right now, or it's too hard to get into the body right now at this stage? Then if it is, let's do some intellectual shadow work, at least just to get a cognitive understanding, a taste of it, right? And see from there how we can bridge the body and the intellectual, psychological mind, which they're not separate in the first place, but they can feel that way sometimes. I hope that answers the question.
And what about the first part? Have you ever stopped with your shadow work?
Stop. I never stop shadow work. It's endless. And if I think I'm stopping, it's a lie. Mm-hmm. You can never, I mean, look, let me answer it in a different way. The extent at which you do work on yourself is up to you. You can do the work to a certain extent and gain a lot of benefits, and you can stop and you say, fuck it, I'm done working on myself. If that's even possible, I don't even know if that's possible to say I'm done working on myself, because there's constantly shit that's going to happen, and you got to deal with it. But at some point you can say like, okay, I'm going to be working on myself less intensely or whatever. I'm going to chill out my sessions, or I'm going to, do less yoga or do less meditation, whatever it is. You can do that. The further you go, the deeper you go, the more refining you can do, and fucking more incommunicably amazing life becomes.
It's definitely something I've come to realize is that I've only hit like a tip of the iceberg in my development as a person and in my personal like self-growth, and just kind of coming out of the whole game and pick up and chasing after validation and things that didn't really bring me true fulfillment. Start to see how much there is to discover in life about oneself. And it's kind of a cool direction that this group and my coaching is dovetailed into. So, final question today is just, what's the evolution of you and your business and your life over the next year or so? Where are you going? What are you trying to work on and change about yourself?
So right now I'm in a process of rebranding. My website is josephghaleeb.com. That's where I did most of my coaching, my calls, and my material is there. But I'm really honing in on this gameless man, the gameless man, and that's what it's about. Some games are meant to end, right? And it's the games we play with ourselves. It's the mind games we're at the mercy of. And it's the games that because we haven't cleaned them up in ourselves, we project them onto the world and in our relationships, and it pollutes our relationships. And we never have real, open, secure relationships. So I'm just focused on offering online coaching as much as possible, live workshops whenever possible. And that's where the good stuff happens, in the live workshops. We have the pair work, we have the one-on-one, like live experiences with the group, the support of the group. We have great activities and deeply powerful, in-person exercises, trainings. But I've been doing a lot of work on Zoom, which is surprisingly, unbelievably helpful, like super powerful. So a lot of that too. And I do pair work on Zoom. I bring female facilitators on Zoom and we do 3-way stuff. It's amazing. And so a lot of that, building the brand, getting the message out, my own perspectives, my own perspective, my own view, and being of service, man.
Yeah, you said it. Serve, learn, master, begin. And it all starts with service. And I've come to realize that the people who serve you are the ones that really care, that really want to see you grow. And they want you to become a master as well. So how can they reach out to you if they want to connect on a deeper level?
DM me anywhere you want. DM me on Facebook. I'll respond right away. Instagram at Joe Ghaleeb, Joeghaleb. So Joeghaleb. On Facebook, I have a private group that people can request to join. I have a few requirements, commitments, rules. But yeah, Facebook, my website is josephghaleeb.com, josephghaleb.com. If you just want to book a free consultation call, I'll see you inside. You're welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a enlightening chat with you. So
thank you, bro. Thank you for having me.
all right. See you on the next one.